Hello, good afternoon everybody, and welcome to our session titled Co-Designing Creative Curriculum Opportunities with our partners in the senior phase. If I could just go through a couple of points. So these sessions are being recorded for public viewing, and if you could turn off your microphone when you're not speaking and use the chat pane for any questions that you may have. So as I said, this session's entitled Co-Designing Creative Curriculum Opportunities with Partners in the Senior Phase. My name's Nicola Crawford and I work in Education Scotland within the Curriculum Innovation team. I'm really excited to hear the curriculum stories that we have for you here today. The vision for Scotland's curriculum begins with the 4 capacities in Article 29 of the United Nations Convention on the Rights of the Child. The vehicle for us to realise that ambition is the 4 contexts for learning. Learning in subject areas is really important, but so too is being able to use that learning in a creative and relevant context. One of the recommendations from OECD was to look at the structure of learning pathways in the senior phase to enhance learners' experience and really help them develop their 4 capacities continuously. And how we build the curriculum is centred around the purple grid in the centre, as you see here, really understanding your learners and allowing them the opportunity to take some responsibility in their learning, knowing the big ideas and creating experiences where the development of knowledge is partnered with the development of their skill sets, working creatively with partners such as the partners you're going to hear about today, and using these strong connections to make links to the world of work, to FE, to colleges, further learning, and to the most relevant learning experiences for our learners. The Muir report highlighted the importance of a curriculum that reflects the needs of our planet and the creative skills that will be required. I think these are brilliant examples we're going to look at today of how schools are really building out from real world problems that we know quite literally mean the world to our learners. I'm really excited to hear. I'm going to introduce you now and pass you over to Scott Atkins, who's the Deputy Head Teacher at Duncanrig High School, and he's going to discuss with you today design, engineering, construct and how they utilise that in their school. I'll just pass that over to you now, Scott.
Thank you. Hi everyone. As Nicola said, my name is Scott Atkins. I am currently a Deputy Head Teacher at Duncanrig Secondary School in East Kilbride. Previously, a year ago, I was the Principal Teacher of Design, Engineering and Technology within the school, and obviously presenting on today one of the courses that we've introduced within our department, which is the Design, Engineering and Construct course. So some people might have heard of this course. It has been kind of set out for quite a while now, and it's been shared with quite a few schools, and there is quite a lot of schools in the West Coast in particular now are picking up the DEC course. And for us, the reason why we introduced it was as part of our departmental improvement plan. We were looking at ways we could expand pathways and options for our young people, looking for something that was a new course, an innovative course, and something that kind of differed from traditional approaches to subjects in design, engineering, technology and technical subjects. With that as well, also finding a course that better related to industry and gave our young people better opportunities and experiences to work with industry. So not only to have us deliver a course, but actually work alongside industry partners to learn about a course and get involved in that, possibly through work experiences, different opportunities where they could obviously enhance their knowledge with that. For me, obviously, I'm really passionate about technical subjects, and obviously with regard to the kind of standard curriculum, it feels that there's certain aspects of that maybe universities don't always pick up through their subjects, in terms of linking in qualifications like graphic communication versus art, for example. And with obviously engineering being such a big focus in Scotland at the moment, we wanted to make sure that obviously we had a course that was giving our young people the best experiences and opportunities with that. And this came through a partnership identified with Construction Skills Innovation Centre Scotland. Working with them at Hamilton, they identified this course and had obviously highlighted it to us, and that's what led us on the journey to establishing it within our curriculum. If you're okay to move on to the next slide, Nicola, sorry. Thank you. So how we've implemented DEC, obviously I'll get a wee bit more into what DEC involves as we go through this, but just to give you an overview of how we've implemented it. The DEC qualification is run by TQ UK, who are an authority body in England, and with that, obviously, one of the key factors in allowing us to run that was to make sure the course was SCQF accredited. So when we initially started the course, it was accredited at level 4, but has now been accredited at level 5. This is where you get a wee bit of confusion with the course, unfortunately, because DEC call the level 5 course level 1, and they call the level 6 course level 2. So sometimes there's a wee bit of confusion with that, just trying to make sure the language is right round about the subject. But with that, obviously, it gives pupils tariff points with regard to SCQF that are equivalent with National 5 and higher. So introducing the course, we introduced the level 5 qualification into S4 as an S4 option. It was timetabled at 4 periods per week. We offer all our subjects at 4 periods per week for National 5s, so we decided to take that approach to doing that. Year 2, we then decided to develop that further and lead it into the level 6 course, obviously higher equivalent, and again introducing that with our kind of standard framework for higher courses at 6 periods per week. Moving on from that, we've then developed this into a BG course. So we've taken our graphic communication course in 3rd year. We have restructured that and created a DEC qualification working with Class of Your Own, who obviously develop learning resources for the DEC course to then further develop the DEC award at BG so that pupils have a better progression and pathway into the level 5, level 6 course. And this year we have started to establish extracurricular activities round about DEC. So for example, we were involved in undertaking a nationwide project for pupils to develop a new sustainable restaurant for McDonald's. And that was underwritten by McDonald's, so they were involved in setting up the process for what they expected. They identified a site which they will be building on in the near future, and they asked pupils interested in DEC and architecture to obviously then go ahead and design a new sustainable restaurant for them. So added that in as well, and obviously developed at BG level. We have also developed a range of 1st and 2nd year short courses now, where pupils can get an experience of DEC with that. Now, obviously the course is called Design, Engineer and Construct, but the focus of the course is all round about the built environment. I think traditionally technical qualifications still have a stigma attached to them, unfortunately, sometimes, which is that people basically build buildings by getting a hammer and nails and putting timber frames together or welding steels together to construct, and obviously that is not the case as much in terms of the design phase. So the DEC course looks at how we use digital technologies to develop and design buildings. And at an industrial level, what obviously architects, structural engineers, mechanical engineers, etc. get involved in when they are designing a building from its initial phase to its final design. So with the level 5 qualification for DEC, our S4 learners undertake a project called Class of Your Own. That involves then developing and designing a sustainable classroom for the school. So we identify a site at the school where pupils go and then design a new eco classroom for that, looking at sustainable materials. They work with a partnership company. The DEC course and qualification in Class of Your Own will help you set up an adopter, is the term they use for that. And we were paired up with a company called Turner Townsend. Now, Turner Townsend are a global consultancy firm who work with engineers all over the world, and they've been involved in designing projects like the Hydro and the Shard in London. So having that experience is fantastic because it means that our learners get first-hand experience and input from architects, engineers and so on from different areas of engineering to obviously enhance a project, discuss what they're doing, and obviously learn better and be able to actually share ideas with professionals. And that makes a big difference in terms of how the course is delivered, which I'll touch on later on. With that, obviously looking at the level 2 qualification or the level 6 higher, pupils then get to design their own project. So they set a brief, they pick a local community project, and they design an architecture project for something that will enhance the community. So this year we had pupils designing obviously different projects round about centres for disability or inclusion for family centres and so on, and really created projects round about that they could obviously get involved in, and again working alongside Turner Townsend. So it's quite a lot to take in initially, obviously, with the DEC course in terms of what involved, but the key thing is obviously the focus on architecture and learning differently, and obviously maybe just in sharing that initial phase of how we set it up. Some questions might be about, this sounds obviously really different from what we know to kind of standard qualifications in technical subjects, and challenges faced with that would be an unfamiliarity for staff, because we're obviously talking about how people go about designing and planning buildings and the kind of processes involved in doing that, and it might not be something that technical teachers are first-hand trained in or have the experience of delivering. Also a lack of knowledge about the built environment and the digital built environment in terms of how projects come about and how they're designed and made from that. And also a lack of skill potentially, because stepping away from standard software that we use in technical subjects and starting to use BIM software such as Revit, for example, which I know is not widely used in every school, but starting to look at how we design, obviously, and use modelling software to create building concepts. And one of the kind of key things for us as well, when we first started this, thankfully, as I said earlier on, there is more schools picking up the qualification now, but when we started, there were very few partner schools running the qualification, and we were one of the first in the West Coast to actually take on the qualification from that. So moving on to the next part, Nicola, thanks. How we overcame the challenges with introducing the deck course. The first thing was obviously having a flexible approach to delivery. Although we had 4 periods on the timetable for this set aside, there were times where we maybe had to take pupils out of like PSE, for example, or core curriculum, or find other opportunities to take pupils off the curriculum so that we could go for visits to, for example, Turner Townsend site. So when we initially started this course, they were just at the very initial phase of building the new Barclays building on the Clyde in Glasgow. And with that, we were able to get pupils out to that site to obviously meet architects and discuss why the building was designed that way, look at what materials they were using, why they were using certain structures, what was the kind of community aspect of Glasgow, what did they expect from a building from this type, and that really enhanced their knowledge with that. So taking a flexible approach to delivery and thinking about how you can work creatively with your partner to do that really helps get the course moving. One of the best things about the deck course is the resources available. Class of Your Own have a full site dedicated to any school undertaking the qualification, where you have teaching resources, pupils guides, videos, and a whole variety of resources that you can use to enhance the teaching with that. Because one of our biggest concerns is how do we deliver architecture in schools when potentially we've got obviously a knowledge of architecture, but we don't have that real in-depth knowledge of architecture and the processes within that let's say an architect or a built environment company would have. So being able to rely heavily on Turner Townsend and our adopter company was really important, because that then allowed us to actually let them deliver the qualification. So rather than us standing teaching, we could actually bring in architects and they could teach our young people about architecture and how they should present their project. So like I was saying, when we were undertaking the level 1 qualification and pupils are designing their class of your own, they were able to come in with first-hand experience and obviously discuss that with the pupils and say, right, what are your thoughts on how are you going to approach this? Pupils would share their thoughts and their kind of ideas, and then they had architects on hand who could tell them, right, this is what we would do, this is what we suggest you do, that's a great idea, but this might not work. And that really took it to the next level. And I think for pupils as well, for them, it really engaged their interest better, because rather than hearing it directly for us, they're actually working with architects and industries that they want to go into potentially in their futures. And it really opens up their eyes to what the job involves in getting that experience. Also, the contact with DEC and including the qualifications body, TQ UK, I would have to say is second to none. Anytime I've had to lift the phone, if there's any outcomes or assessments that we weren't sure of or thinking, right, what's the best way to approach that? It was really easy to lift the phone and contact TQ UK, who are always on hand to answer any questions and get back to you really quickly with that. So that makes the course really attractive in terms of thinking of different approaches. And if we would go back to them and say, okay, that outcome might not work in our school because we maybe don't have the facility or the resource to do that, they were happy to discuss alternatives and then say, right, if you do it this way, we'll still assess it in the same way. And that's really useful because that opens up for learners of different backgrounds, etc., making sure that you can tailor this course exactly to their needs and to the needs of your school, and making sure that the environment that you've got available to you suits the course. And that made it very attractive in working through that. And we've developed a course now that really fits your school and really fits your learners who are interested in potentially going into jobs in the built environment, architecture or engineering. Obviously, I've touched on working successfully with our adopter and accessing CLPL opportunities. Daniel McDonough, who does a lot of the CLPL and drives the course for Class of Your Own, again, as part of that online site, has developed excellent resources to show you how to deliver outcomes and provide that setup to help support teachers in new schools in undertaking the course. And one of the key things for me as the principal teacher was obviously to then provide time for teachers within the department to have time on their timetable to actually meet and discuss the course and seek out support where they required it to make sure that they could plan the course effectively with that. So there is quite a lot of planning that's needed in initially bringing the course, and it is very new and it is very different from traditional SQA approaches that we take in technical subjects. But I think the outcomes of that far outweigh any kind of negatives that might be thought about in initially starting the course, and it does provide pupils with positive outcomes going forward. If you could just move on to the next slide, Nicola, thanks. Okay, so as I said, the benefits and the impact of introducing DEC for us, we are now into year 4 of DEC, and we have a really successful uptake of S4 and S5 pupils and S6 pupils undertaking the level 5 and level 6 qualification. Currently this year we've got 20 pupils. Obviously we won't get one class, unfortunately, because of the software that we use restrictions at the moment, and we are looking to address that. But we have a full class at 20 level 5, and we've got a full class at 20 at higher who are undertaking that. We have had 100% success rate with the course, and again that's because we've relied really heavily on the resources that DEC and Class 0 and TQ UK have provided, as well in working with our adopters to do that. One of the best things for me as well, and I know our young people have said this, is the flexibility of the approach. They get to choose how they want to learn this. It's not like because that outcome, they have to achieve that outcome, they have to do it in a certain way. It's not like, for example, in some of the SQA qualifications that we run, where they have to do an 8-hour assignment and every pupil approaches it the same way and produces the same body of work at the end of it. Pupils can take any approach to this that they wish, as long as it works within the constraints of the course. And Class of Your Own and TQ UK are very open to that, to allow pupils to do that, because one of the key things here is that learners come out very confident throughout the course. Everything's about them presenting their work, sharing their ideas, discussing that with their peers, discussing it with staff across the school. So, for example, maybe working with facilities management in the school, working with partners in the local community to discuss projects and what their plans are. And DEC and TQ UK are really open to obviously thinking about different ways and innovative ways that we can obviously deliver the course. And like I said as well, the access and support from the underwriters of the course in Class of Your Own is second to none, and that does make it really attractive, because you can have those regular discussions. I've at one point had fortnightly meetings with TQ UK just to check in, and Ryan Wimbles, who's the kind of the lead on this at TQ UK, is absolutely fantastic, and really happy to support that discussion and set up any time we can to look at approaches to this. And obviously, like I said, the opportunity for learners to personalise their work and be creative. With the Level 5 course, pupils will produce a full design, as well as models, 3D models, 3D prints, for example, as well as CAD models online, as well as building plans, site plans for a class of their own within their own school. They'll obviously produce a whole wealth of information and research that they conduct on sustainable engineering, the sustainability and learning through sustainability, which is really current in education and really important for Scotland at the moment. So they have a portfolio in the region of 60 to 80 pages that they can present to employers, colleges, etc. when they leave 4th year or that level 5 qualification. At higher, pupils obviously, as I said, design their own project, and they pick their own project and design that. And at that point, that's really useful, because obviously it shows companies, employers, universities what their ability is within this course. And again, they produce a project of around 80 pages showing how to plan this project, what their final design is, how they identified the opportunity, and obviously how they're then going to take that forward. And that in itself gives them a portfolio that stands out from other candidates, because it's unique to them, it's individual to them, and even against other pupils who are undertaking the DEC qualification, they have something that's really bespoke for them with that. If you could just move on to the next slide, Nicola, thanks. Okay, so just obviously to give you a wee flavour of this, like I said, this is our S3 unit that we deliver currently with 3rd Year Graphic Communication. This is done on 3D CAD modelling software, and pupils are tasked with designing an office for their back garden. We give them a footprint and a site within their house. They go home and map it out and plan that out within their own garden site using Google Maps, etc. And then with that, they then go and develop an architecture sustainable office that could be used for people working at home from that. And as you can see with the standard of work produced using, in this case, Autodesk Inventor, pupils can be really creative in designing something that looks really exciting. It looks obviously professional in terms of what they produce from that, and obviously getting that idea of architecture at an initial phase in S3. And we feel that's really important, just to make sure that pupils understand the pathway. They get a flavour of what the course is about, and how obviously what they can learn from it and what they can gain from that. And then that allows them to give a better flavour of what's involved in the Level 5 course. And some of the other examples, sorry Nicola, if you just flick on. Thank you. This is obviously the Class of Your Own project, so hopefully from these examples you'll see the standard of work. And when we presented this to Turner Townsend, their adopter, they were absolutely blown away that this is 4th year pupils, remember, producing work of this standard. You can see the creativity in it. This has had absolutely zero teacher input other than teaching pupils how to use BIM software. In our case, we use Revit, and you can see the standard of work that pupils produce with that. And obviously, if you were to go and research, online for architecture concepts for classrooms, buildings, then I don't think you're going to see many examples dissimilar to this in terms of this. And remembering that these are 4th year pupils producing this standard of work. if you're okay just to go on again, Nicola. And obviously the higher course initial design sketches, and again you can see the standard that pupils designing. So this was one of our S5 pupils who designed a new restaurant concept for community engagement. So starting with the initial sketches, and then on to the next slide you will see the final concept for this. So again, you can see the scale changes from the level 5 course to the higher course. And again, this building is completed 100% by that pupil in terms of designing everything from the initial phase, the 3D modelling concept round about that, the planning, how the building is going to flow, how it's going to work, how it's going to fit the community, what materials are going to source, can they use materials from a local supplier to obviously allow them to build that so that they'll be more sustainable with design, what positive energy solutions can they find to obviously make the building. So there's a massive body of work that's undertaken by pupils, but I think the outcome speaks for itself in terms of what they gain from it and what they're able to obviously then showcase going forward. And lastly, just the last couple of slides before I finish up, sorry. Just obviously, I know this is recorded and this information will be available later on, so I won't read through this just now, but it gives you a flavour obviously of what pupils are saying about the course in terms of what they've learned from it. Currently, we've got a number of pupils who have been successful in securing places at architecture at Glasgow School of Art and Strathclyde University, as well as mechanical and structural engineering. Unfortunately, one of the downsides is the DEC course is not recognised by Strathclyde and Glasgow University at the moment, but there is work being done in the background of that. Obviously, it's recognised as a level 6 qualification, but there's still obviously a requirement for architecture courses looking for higher art, for example. But on the East Coast, on the other hand, like Robert Gordon, Napier, etc., they're accepting DEC as a qualification at level 6 to allow pupils to enter architecture at university level. And that's really useful. And one of the key things that's been successful for us, which you'll see in pupil testimonies here as well, if you're okay just to flick on again, Nicola, sorry, for the last slide. Obviously with that is pupils, the engagement that they get with industry partners, and we currently have in the pipeline pupils potentially setting up work experience with industry partners to go out and work and do architecture internships and hopefully apprenticeships leading on to that as well, that's going to allow them to obviously go forward in their career. So potentially looking at rather than going straight to university, actually working with a company and looking at how they can get involved in that. So it does open doors for pupils, and we've had our pupils presenting at different schools. We were up at Larbert High School recently. We had our 5th and 6th years presenting the course rather than me presenting it like I'm doing just now. I actually had our learners presenting the course to showcase what they've learned from it and where it's potentially taking them in their future. And when you see that happening, you do get a lot of inspiration for the course because you see how much it actually develops learners, because it's their work. It's their focus. It's not get the same structures. They have to tick every box to get through the qualification. It's about them. It's about how they want to approach their learning, and it's about how they want to present this to ensure that what they produce at the end of this is going to help them in their journey into further employment, college education, etc. With that, there's quite a lot to cover in the short time that we have, obviously, but open to any questions. And as I said previously and presented this before, always happy to be contacted and discuss it further, visit schools and support where I can. So if there is any questions anybody wants to ask, feel free.
Thank you very much, Scott. I'm not sure, I'm just having a look to see if there's any chat. So if you want to put a hand in, if you've got anything you'd like to ask Scott. Scott, for me, it blows me away because you're looking at, from what you've described there, you're showing me, you're showing the individual learner aspects. The individual can come in and choose what they want. And there's that ideal, concept of bringing subjects they've brought into one big massive project. And that project as well is about social justice, isn't it, as well as sustainability. So it's amazing, and I think it's really powerful what you've done with your pupils. So if there's no questions at the moment, I'll certainly leave an email address at the end to make sure that anybody that wants to get into contact, because we can link you with Scott. Scott can give some advice as well on starting it up in your centre, and we can help as well in Education Scotland. So I'll leave the curriculum innovation email at the end. So I'm going to introduce you now to Helena Good, who is the Director and Project Lead for Daydream Believers. And I'm just going to hand over to you now, Helena, and I'm just going to share. Just give me 2 seconds just to bring this back up. And it's over. 2 seconds.
Thanks, Nicola, and thanks, Scott. We're big fans of the stuff that you're doing at DEC, and it's really inspiring to see the students' work. So I'm here in one of the agencies in Edinburgh, Dentsu, and it's a really good wall. Here they have creativity is our superpower. I'm here to talk about a superpower that we all have. We're all creative, and we're here particular on the invitation of Education Scotland to talk about the creative thinking qualification. Next slide, Nicola. So I always say have mouth will talk when I'm asked to speak, but really this is not my story. This is the story of these 20 schools who are working with us at the minute on this new qualification. And they are the teachers in this school. There's 3 of them here. We're delighted that Philip is joining us from Drummond, Katie from Balerno, and Caroline from Banff. But it's their experience, the work that they're doing at the minute, that absolutely keeps us believing in a superpower and desiring more. So this is what the qualification is. It's 24 SCQF points. It's a really different model where we came together. I put a call out to universities and colleges and said, if you're seeing a disconnect in your admissions, if the students that you're seeing coming through have not got the skills and the evidence that you need, why not create something different and resource it? So what you see is a collaboration of those universities and a desire to really support the teachers to create something different. So on the next slide, we're on a mission. Because we're all born creative, we truly believe that creative thinking should be a core subject in all our schools. And we're calling out now with a deadline. We think in the next 5 years, we really want to make this happen. There's lots of evidence about the what and the why, and we at Daydream Believers, we have a how and how we can support you. So if you go to the next slide, this is actually a screenshot from one of the lessons called Creative Bravery. And for that to happen, for creative thinking to be a core subject, it requires everyone who's involved in education, parents, policymakers, teachers, to be creatively brave. And it's too easy at the minute to have a sorry no attitude. But in this lesson, what it asks is when someone comes up with an idea, you ask the pupils then are said yes and, so they develop on it. And I'd really love you to have a think just on the next slide as we're going through this conversation. We want to know your yes and or your sorry no. So as you listen to what we've put together, what goes through your head? What are some of the challenges that you think you might face in bringing something like this in? Or where are some of the things and the opportunities, the yes ands in the conversation? So on the next slide, PISA, which is, I've written this down, Programme for International Student Assessment. And this is how they define creative thinking. So what really excites us about this qualification is the opportunity for this to be delivered right across the curriculum. So if you go to the next slide, you'll see what's going to happen. In 2022, this year, PISA brought in creative thinking. So normally what happened, they assessed schools right across the world based on sort of English, science, and maths. And for the first time ever, they're bringing in creative thinking as part of that assessment. And the reason they're doing that is that they can see the World Economic Forum, any of our future skills, meta skills, creative thinking, critical thinking, problem solving are the skills of the future. But what I love about this is they're assessing the creative solution in a variety of open contexts. So moving back to what Curriculum for Excellence was all about, moving to focus on the experience and not the outcome. So we're really excited at Daydream that we've actually been invited as part of the OECD and the work they're doing with PISA to go to Paris in a few weeks and be part of how this is shaping up, what the next stage for this assessment is. So in the next slide, you'll see we're moving on to just telling you a little bit about us. So who is and who are Daydream Believers? So if you go to the next slide, that's us. Brilliant, Nicola, you're doing great there. These are our guiding principles. And if you look there, one of our mantras is trust the teacher. You know, we believe that as teachers, you're here, you desire and you want the very best. We've given you resources that we're interested there that have real world content. But the key part in a lot of the work we do is scaffold. These are bricks that you can use to build and create a really interesting real world industry relevant experience. So in the next slide, you'll see some of the partners that we've been incredibly lucky in the 2 to 3 years that we have established as an online resource. And they include everybody from Rockstar to Lego to smaller creative agencies, Studio LR here in Edinburgh. When we work, on the next slide, you'll see the process that we work with any partner. We start with discover. So what are some of the wicked challenges you as a business are working with at the minute? We collaborate with them to design, and we work with our amazing teachers who are part of the programme to help really create an experience that is both relevant for both business and in education. And then we deliver a package and we model exactly what we ask our young people to do. We fail and fix. How does it work? Very like a shopping channel. You as a teacher can filter the lessons by age or range. Most of them are just as you see there, they sort of upper primary right through up until senior phase. And you can just take a free lesson that's maybe 50 minutes, that's something that might sit in BGE, or you can take something that's bigger, which is part of our playlist. And you'll see on the next slide there, we talk a little bit about that. So in the creative thinking qualification, both at level 5 and level 6, we have 2 playlists. So in a sense, these playlists are an academic year with real world challenge-based projects at the heart of them. And you've also got warm-ups. Having taught for 27 years, the warm-ups are often that bit when you walk into a classroom and your class look like the living dead, and you just need something that's going to spark a little bit of an excitement. So in the next slide, you'll see how the qualification works. If you move then onto that, these are the 5 learning outcomes. Now, what's interesting about this is these are 5 learning outcomes that are the same across both level 5 and 6. And all that happens is the rubric changes. So we take our students and our young people through the same process. And the only part of these learning outcomes that's product driven is the communicate, where we ask our young people to tell us a story, make us care. But the focus is on the process. And we're really excited that fail and fix, our ability to iterate, is something that is now assessed. And our young people can get an A in failure and be really proud of that. So you'll see there on the next slide how the learning outcomes are broken down. You'll see also for the first time the little icons, and that response will come back into how we show that is assessed. So really clear, really simple. At Daydream, we love simplicity. And then in the next slide, you'll see the Creative Bravery playlist that, as I said, you can go in and check out when this session is over. And there are 4 challenges. Just on the next slide, you'll see that. So remember what we said at the beginning where we went to the university. So Van of Dreams is written by Edinburgh and the University. And we said to them in the product design, what are the skills? What are the challenges that you want to see our young people working on? And they give us this, the Van of Dreams. They worked with us to create a challenge that works across an academic year. Obviously, the equivalent of a Nat 5 and a higher, 4 50-minute lessons roughly a week. And a beautiful challenge. Your community's been gifted a camper van. What does the van look like and how can it benefit your community? We worked with Ellen MacArthur Foundation to create a circular fashion resource. Studio LR, who do you think in the world deserves more kindness? And with a nod to the future skills and the care economy, Thoughts Become Things, written by Acrylicize in London, reimagine a hospital waiting room. So just on the next slide, you'll see how that works and plugs and play, very like a playlist. These lessons can be micro-credentialed. Some of them, as you see there, have a heavier weight, but they work right across an academic year. And again, what happens is we talk and support our teachers to scaffold that experience. On the next slide, you'll see our new playlist. So this is Spaces and Places. It has 3 challenges and some warm-up exercises. If you go to the next slide there, Nicola, it'll show you those challenges. So here we have the Lego lesson where we worked with Lego Creative. really open and honest. They shared the projects they worked on that fail. They share how they come up with ideas. They share how they pitch ideas, and they take students through the real world process of working at LEGO. We've got here state of being. Very much the UN SDGs are at the heart of the challenge-based learning, and we're really excited about how creative thinking is a new way of embedding these into the curriculum. So state of being is what Caroline and Philippa and Katie are working on at the minute. It asks our young people to create a well-being space in their schools and activate it. And Forestopia, create a theme park connected to the ecosystem of the forest. And Solar Punk Island, you land on an island, and how do you survive in the 15-minute neighbourhood? So you'll see all the SDGs. It's all there. And if you just go to the next slide, you'll see again how that just plugs and plays across an academic year. And as you see, some of the challenges, just by the weight of the resources, have a bigger, higher weight, longer time to do. And just then on the next slide there, so this is when you go in, this is what it happens. This is what the state of being looks like. If you go to the next slide there, so this is the brief. Now, something's gone wrong with the type here, which is beautiful, but the lines normally sit under the text, but you can see what's happened there. Basically, the challenge is to create a wellness area. They create 3 permanent artworks, but they've got to also think about how they activate it. So just on the next slide, Nicola. So what happens is Acrylicize give them plans, 3-dimensional support pack of an imaginary area that they can use, or the young people can pick their own area in the school. And then on the next slide, you'll see the Solar Punk one, basically there, just a 15-minute city. If you go to the next slide, it sets the context for the challenge. So we've crash landed onto the island. They're in the middle of nowhere, no chance to connect the world. They have to work together. It's time to start working and be collaborative and think about what is sustainability. You know, how can we use nature to survive? So go to the next slide there. Basically what happens is each of the class gets a snatch, so they each get a part of the island. They choose to be either themselves as the user, or they can choose a user from a really diverse range of people, including Billy Connolly. What would Solar Punk Island look like for Billy Connolly, and what would he need to survive? And then just if you go to the next bit, it comes back to what we talked about, that product driven. Tell me a story, make me care. So we don't have a really descriptive, prescriptive product that they have to produce. They can build Solar Punk out of Lego, Minecraft. All we ask them to do is to develop up their communication skills. How can they use that process of research, ideas, iteration to inform the story and make us care, make us listen? So just to quickly there to Forestopia, you'll see then, as I said, it was connected by Ellen MacArthur, created by Ellen MacArthur Foundation. If you go to the next slide, it is a little bit learning by stealth. So the kids get really excited thinking it's all about theme parks, but actually what happens is they're learning about circular economy. So they choose either the rides, the catering, or the shopping. But on the next slide, you'll see they do get to meet a theme park. So we were incredibly lucky to meet Iona, a graduate of Napier University that is a theme park designer. I mean, it is, you know, who knew that was a job growing up? So she shares a day in the life, and we do, that's really important in Daydream. What we do is the context. You know, always in our heads, we're thinking, what's the point? If you're a kid sitting there doing this project, what's the point? So the context, the real world context, is a massive part of what we do and what we promote. Just in the next slide, you'll see that, you know, we talked about scaffolded. So, you know, we're delighted to be working with Lantra, Forestry Scotland are engaged and looking at every kid who does this project would be attached to a real forest. But again, with a nod to the iPad rollout, looking again just on the next slide to how do we take this and develop this in. So we've created forestopia.co.uk. If you can't afford to get your kids to the forest, you can actually go online, listen to this website. It has the sounds of the forest, water, birds chirping, and kids can go online on their iPad and listen and watch that. And then just finally here, we're just going to talk about assessing. So I'm going to draw breath in a minute. You'll be grateful for that. But we have a tool, and very often when you talk about bringing something new, that can be the sorry no. Well, you know, I know how I stand with SQA. I have a set of boxes. It's really informative. I understand it. This is different. So we have a stamp that we use for part of the formative assessment. The dot in the middle is a D, and as the dots move further out, it's an A. And you can see here those little icons that relate directly to the learning outcomes. If you go to the next slide and just see that in a little bit kind of closer, and you can see, you know, what the teachers are able to do is just stamp this directly onto the kids' work. So the kids begin to see how their ability to research and get an A in it is good. But if they don't push their ideas and thinking, then their overall grade is going to fall. So just on the final slide there, Nicola's going to share, and hopefully it's going to work here. This is our interactive app called Stellar. And what happens with Stellar, it basically just takes the stamp and it creates an interactive experience. Now, we were having a few difficulties with how that was running, so don't worry, Nicola, if it's not going to go for you, the video. But you can go on our website.
It's playing on mine. Is it playing?
No, it's not playing on ours. I don't know. Oh, you've gone on mute there, Nicola. Sorry. Just come out of that, and we can come back in.
I thought, Helena, it would be good. We've got 5 minutes left. If you can bring
absolutely.
The pictures, that'd be okay for the final 5 minutes.
So what I can do is I can put the link to that into the chat. So yeah, a whistle stop tour. It's a big story, and we can always, as you say, talk for ages. But thank you so much, and I'll put the link in. Thanks, Nicola.
Well, Helena, it would be wonderful though to hear from Caroline and Philippa and Katie about their experience, because that sounds again amazing of what you brought into the system. I'm sorry that's playing with me, but as long as you can't hear it, it's okay. Caroline, can I hand over to you and ask, how's it been working with your students?
So this is the second year we're running it, and we've got a second full class of doing it. Very similar to Scott earlier on, I'm a design and technology teacher, and it was really starting to become quite soul destroying to see the students turning out the exact same folios, getting marks for producing identical work, not inspiring that creativity, not having that real life context or skill set they need when they move on. And it has been fantastic. I've got feedback from all the students that have said it's their favourite subject. It's filled a massive gap in the curriculum for us, because we have got where there was design and manufacture, art and design and graphics, there was this big hole in the centre that these students are really taking. And I was saying in the session earlier on that within 3 or 4 lessons of the creative thinking qualification, I know these students far better than I ever have over 3 or 4 years of teaching them. They put so much themselves into their sketchbook, and they're so passionate and want to share. And if there was a word that I would say that this qualification does offer, is that it's human. It has that passion. Helena's talked about some of the topics, the idea of, you know, campaign for kindness, and that's really bringing in, you know, interdisciplinary. It's really developing our students as citizens, rather than just having a purely design skill set. It's a very holistic approach, and it's completely refreshed my passion for teaching. And it's, again, when the timetable changes and the next class comes back in, it can be a wee bit, all right, we're back to the same old again. We could teach that all day, all week.
That's wonderful. It's wonderful to hear. And as you said, Helena, you were talking at the start about the skills that both further education, higher education employers are looking for, and this absolutely fits for that too. And Caroline, it's amazing to hear that's completely reinvigorated you in the profession as well. I don't know if Katie or Philippa, would you like to come in? We've got a couple of minutes left. I don't know if we get any if you get any questions, please put it in the chat. That'd be fine. Philippa,
I'll jump in really quickly. That's okay, Nicola. For me, one of the things that I love delivering the qualification this year is being able to say to the kids what they're doing in class is what industry use as well. So a lot of our, in fact, every process we use is something that industry use. And, you know, it's lovely that we're doing some research the other day looking at key statements and creating statements based on emotive words and keywords. And I was saying to them, you know, this is what Acrylicise use. This has come directly from them. And it's so lovely to be able to bring that real world content into the classroom so easily.
Makes such a difference, doesn't it, for our young people? Philippa, just a final wee thought from yourself, and then we'll need to wrap up.
Yeah, well, I would just say be warned, it will probably be the high point of your day and your week. You'll have motivated, curious, engaged students. The words they're coming back with are inspiring, thought-provoking and fun. And I just think that everybody leaves, having done this qualification, they find something else, they find something out about themselves that's great. And, you know, they go away with that, knowing that they've got something really great to offer the world. So I don't think you can do much better than that.
Thank you very much. And if you go back to what the sort of setting for this sort of session was, co-designing a creative curriculum opportunities with our partners for our young people in the senior phase, taking into account everything we've heard. I think these are excellent examples, and I've really enjoyed listening to both yourself, Scott, Helena, Philippa, Caroline, Katie. Thank you very much, and have a lovely evening. Thank you.